Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Couples Academy show. My name is Asani, and listen, the last couple of days you've been seeing me in different locations. I'm on the move, I'm traveling, not at the home front, but I do want to be committed to giving you what you need. If you don't know me, if this is your first time tuning in, my name is Asani Pettiford. I am the co-founder of Couples Academy. I am an infidelity recovery specialist, and our objective here is to help restore your relationship. Okay. And we do that in a number of different ways. And one of the ways that we do that is providing this daily show. So every single morning we come on about 9:30 a.m. Monday through Friday to give you what you need to empower you. We've been in a series called Rebuilding Intimacy After Infidelity. So most of the people who come to this particular channel have experienced the pain of infidelity, and oftentimes there has been a breach in the intimacy in the first place that contributed to the affair. And then once the affair has happened and has come out, it puts a further strain on the intimacy. But yet and still, people choose to remain together. They want to restore the relationship. They want to see if things are possible. And even though they remain married, the relationship within their marriage oftentimes remains broken. And so one way of restoring and healing and fixing the relationship is to restore the intimacy within the relationship. And so over the last couple of days, we've been talking about what that looks like. And so today we're kind of ending this series, and we're talking about the fourth phase, which is physical intimacy, how to rebuild the physical intimacy. And so I want to start off by giving you a quick announcement. We have our last chance weekends that are coming up June 7th through the 9th this weekend, July 12th through the 24th next month, and August the 9th through the 11th. We always do them on the second weekend of the month. So if you're interested, please call the number at the bottom of the screen. Go and reach out on our website. We would love to set up a discovery call with you to help you restore your relationship. All right. So I want to give you a definition for physical intimacy. All right. Well, physical intimacy refers to the closeness and connection between partners that is expressed through physical touch and sexual activity. It includes acts of affection such as hugging, kissing, holding hands, cuddling, and sexual intercourse. Physical intimacy fosters emotional bonding. It enhances trust, and it contributes to overall relationship satisfaction. That is a pretty dense and meaty definition. And so I want to take my time kind of unpacking it so that you can begin to restore it in your relationship. Now, one thing I know, generally speaking, most couples, both partners in the relationship, have a desire to restore the physical intimacy, but there's something in them that causes them to work against what it is that they want. Within us, we have what I would call, think about a car. You get in a car and you drive, right? So you have the gas pedal, which allows you to accelerate, and then you have the brake, which causes you to stop. And the combination of these two allows you to get to your final destination. Well, within us, we have a gas pedal or the accelerator, and then we have the brake. And oftentimes, though we have a desire to connect physically with our spouse, there are these internal brakes that we press. Either we are pushing the brakes on things, or our spouse may do something that triggers us, that causes us to push the brakes on things. And the physical intimacy that we desire, we do not engage in. And so it's critically important that we identify what these internal things are that are getting in the way and begin to release it. So it's not just, so physical intimacy is not just the relationship between you and your spouse. It's dealing with the relationship with yourself, because we are the lowest common denominator in every relationship we enter into. So if I have fears, if I have phobias, if I have anxieties, if I have trepidation, if I have any type of internal resistance or an aversion to physical intimacy, it will show up in my relationship. So either A, I brought it in from a previous relationship or from childhood, and there's certain places that I haven't healed in my personal life, or things happen within the relationship that created this angst that I now have that makes it a struggle to physically connect, or it's a combination of the two. And it's important that we learn not to commingle relationship issues with past traumas and past issues, because now we will hold our spouse hostage to something that they had nothing to do with. And then we project responsibility on them for things that they had nothing to do with. And so it is now our responsibility to deal with our own selves as well as dealing with each other. I say this all the time. There's three relationships you have: your vertical relationship with God, your internal relationship with yourself, and your horizontal relationship with your spouse. And the horizontal relationship, the health of it, is predicated upon this internal and vertical relationship. So when this is managed, when this is in proper order, this accelerates. Does that make sense? So maybe it's not you, it's me. Maybe there's some things I need to do with myself, for myself, by myself, so that I can be all that I need to be for you. That's the key. So I want to start off by giving you some things that you need to do with, for, and by yourself. And then we're going to transition into what you need to do with your spouse. So number one, how to restore physical intimacy. Number one, we're going to talk about self-care. Self-care is critically important, folks. Self-care is when you take the time to maintain your personal health and hygiene. At the end of the day, your physical health impacts your sexual health. So if you're not showing up sexually the way that you want, it may be an indication that there's something going on in your general physical health. We know that sickness and disease and physical ailments impact sexuality. We know that diet impacts sexuality. We know that habits and vices, whether we're drinking or smoking or doing drugs or whatever the case may be, it impacts your sexuality. So you want to do your best to be your best and to maintain your overall general health so that you can show up physically for your spouse the way that you would like to. But in addition to that, I can't express enough hygiene. Now, when we're working with our couples, whether it's a private marriage intensive, a last chance weekend, or the Moving Forward program, we talk about certain emotional needs that we have. And one of those is the need for an attractive spouse. And one of the aspects that we deal with regarding that is this whole issue of hygiene. And oftentimes, in addition to taking care of your physical body in terms of health, it's really taking the time to make sure that you look good, that you smell good, that certain areas of your body are clean and fresh. Because if you don't have healthy, good hygiene, it can be off-putting to your spouse. And it can cause more resistance, right? And more of an aversion to come together with you physically because things are just not right. So, as adults, certain conversations we shouldn't have to have, but I want you to begin to focus on grooming. I want you to begin to make hygiene a priority. So, no need for me to go into details. I think you know what that means. But in essence, feeling good about yourself physically in terms of your hygiene, it can increase your confidence, and it makes a person more receptive to physical intimacy. See, interestingly enough, if I don't feel good about me, if I don't think that I'm attractive, if I'm not comfortable in my own skin, if I have poor body issues, it impacts my willingness to bear all and to be open and free and vulnerable with my spouse. If I have my own insecurities and inadequacies and physical issues and hygiene issues, I have a tendency to cover up. This is why we find that many people, even when they engage in sex with their spouse, the lights have to be off because I don't want you to see my body. I'm fully covered, right? And I'll pull pieces of my clothing up and things of that nature. But I don't allow myself to be fully free because I'm not comfortable with myself. So now I'm punishing my partner and keeping my partner from experiencing all of me because I am not comfortable with myself. So your level of self-confidence, critically important, and that comes through self-care. And so if you are prioritizing yourself, and I would say women probably engage more in self-care than men. Women make priorities of physical health and hygiene, generally speaking. Generally speaking, I'm not indicting men, but generally that's been the case. And so when you learn to value yourself and value your body, you show up as your best self because there's a level of confidence that you come into your relationship with. All right, that kind of extends into the next thing when we're talking about body awareness. Because if I'm going to give you my body and share my body, then I've got to be aware of my own body. You know, when you're engaging in physical intimacy with someone, there's a preoccupation with your spouse's body and what you want to do and how you want to touch it and how you want to engage. But there's not enough awareness of one's own. So practicing mindfulness and engaging in body awareness techniques to become more attuned to your own sense of physical need and desire is critically important. Like if I'm going to engage in a sensual experience with you, and I'm not quite sure what I like, I'm not quite sure what I need, I don't really know what my own desires are, then I'm going to enter into this experience thinking that it's more of a task and a duty and an obligation, and I'm here to fulfill your needs, but I'm not really getting anything in return. Maybe because I'm not aware of my own physical needs and desires. The more alive I feel within my own body, the more aware I am about my own body, the more I understand erogenous zones and where I need to be touched and how I need to be held and how I need to be caressed and manipulated and fondled. The more awareness I have about me, now I'm coming into this engagement fully ready to allow you to do whatever you need to do for me, because I want to receive just as much as I want to give. So the law of give and take, of sowing and of reaping, of reciprocal altruism, right? Reciprocal means I do for you, you do for me. Altruism means to do good things. So if we're doing good things for each other, and I love it when you touch me here, and please touch me there, and I love it when you do that, me bringing that level of awareness to the experience allows me to get more out of it. It allows me to have more of a desire for it, and it allows me to increase the frequency of it because I know what I want for my own self. Does that make sense? So, having body awareness is critically important. One of the next things that we need to talk about is the importance of physical, personal boundaries. This is critically important. Establishing personal boundaries, why would that be important in the realm of physical intimacy? Well, understanding and communicating your own physical boundaries clearly, it creates a safe space for intimacy to flourish. Many of us have all types of insecurities, trauma points, triggers, things that, we've never spoken to, things that we've never dealt with. And we may be rigid in certain areas. We may have an unwillingness in other areas. We may have an apprehension in certain areas. And if I haven't had those conversations with you, then I may continue to hold on to these things that keep us from experiencing all that we can experience. But the more I'm clear on what these things are, and the more I begin to talk about it, maybe initially we establish certain boundaries to make sure that it's safe. Because if I've gone through things, and for me, sexuality isn't safe because of what was done to me, now I come in fully guarded and protected, and I come in suspect, and I come in rigid. But if we establish certain boundaries of what we can and cannot do, it allows you to free yourself and open yourself up. And the more you begin to communicate what these challenges are, maybe the boundaries that we initially had, they can be removed because now there's an area of safety in places that we were once cautious about because of the danger that we've experienced. And so when it comes to physical intimacy, it's something that we love to do, but really don't like to talk about. Because when we talk about it, it reveals our insecurities, our inadequacies, our fears, our guilt, our shame. All of those things come up in the conversation. I can do it, but I don't want to talk about it. And that's where so many couples find themselves. Because the initial conversations that we had about sex, even with our parents, was weird and awkward. And okay, dad, okay, mom, I get it. Let's move on. So either we were uncomfortable hearing it, or they were uncomfortable declaring it. And it was a conversation that we had, but not really. And so as we have grown and developed, when we would talk about it, there would still be the residue of those initial conversations between parent and child. And it was weird and awkward and yicky and let's do it, but not talk about it. And so that became a normal thing. And so you have to get comfortable with being uncomfortable. Some of these conversations may be uncomfortable, but they're necessary conversations because you can shift from discomfort to comfort the more you engage, the more free, the more open, the more transparent, the more vulnerable. And it allows you to explore the depths of sexuality that you didn't even think were possible because finally you're opening up your heart and your mind to engage. So what we're talking about, yes, physical intimacy, these are the things that I need to do with and for myself in order to prepare myself for you. So what we're going to do is go to a quick commercial break. I want you to think about what I just shared. Next, after this break, we're going to talk about the intimacy between you and your partner and how to heighten it and take it to the next level. You watching the Couples Academy show? Stay right there. All right, we're back. You're watching the Couples Academy show. We are in this series on restoring and rebuilding intimacy after infidelity, and we're talking about how to rebuild physical intimacy. So let's step into what's critically important for you to do with your spouse. Yes, we're talking about the importance of regular physical touch. Can I say that more? Regular physical touch is critically important. And when we're talking about physical touch, we're talking about non-sexual touch. Many of you have heard me share this story time and time again, that when I connect and touch my spouse, I have a tendency to touch her here and here. So I'm going here, here, and then here, right? You could see where I'm grabbing here, here, here. And so after doing that so many times, she would say, Hassani, slow down, stop. And I'm like, what? I'm in my flow. And she would say, are you touching me for me? Or are you touching me for you? And I would say, I guess I'm touching you for me. And she said, exactly. And when you touch me for you, you're touching me in a sexual way. And it makes me feel used, and it makes me feel less important, that the only thing you want is what you can get access to, my body. But what about me? And so when you touch me, let that be how you end the touch, not how you begin the touch. So when you touch me, hold my hands. Rub your fingers through my hair. Rub my back, rub my shoulders, touch my feet. Let's cuddle. Let's have touch time. Why is everything always sexual with you? And because that was the way that I approached her, she had an aversion, because she knew if I got to touching her, what the next question was going to be, or what the next attempt was going to be, sex. So it seemed like touch now became the sign, okay, he wants sex. Now, of course, having a higher desire, a higher libido, I'll take it all day, every day. But that did not work, because now my touch had a goal attached. My touch had an agenda. It was to serve me, to benefit me. I wasn't touching her for the sake of touch. I wasn't touching her to serve her. And so she had to teach me how to love her through touch. And I can't express to you how so many couples, the only time they touch is in the bedroom. Outside of the bedroom, they do not do it. And so it's critically important that you learn to incorporate non-sexual physical touch into daily routines every single day. Holding hands, hugging, cuddling, maintaining a constant sense of connection. It's critically important because if the environment and the atmosphere of your relationship is one where you're engaging in touch, then it makes her more open, him more open to transition into sexual touch. So affectionate gestures are critically important. Even when you kiss, gestures like kissing on a forehead, rubbing backs, showing that type of love of affection really creates a closeness and an intimacy with the couple. Because if you don't touch outside of the bedroom, and the only time you touch is when you're in the bedroom, and there's no sense of closeness between the two of you, sex can seem very transactional. And we never want it to seem like a transaction. And now the bed becomes a bartering table of which we exchange services. And then once those services are over, we go our separate ways. So how are you connecting before? How are you connecting during? How are you connecting afterwards? But in addition to that, I think it's critically important for couples to, schedule intimacy. Now that doesn't sound good. The idea of scheduling intimacy, scheduling sex, what is this, a board meeting? What are we acting in a professional way? Where's the romance? Where's the spontaneity? No, you have to schedule because people schedule what they prioritize. If you have an important meeting, don't you schedule it? If you have an important event, don't you put the date on the calendar so that you don't forget because you're making it a priority? And that you will clear the deck, clear your schedule in order to fit in what you consider important. And the reason why there's a huge disconnect between people's desires and their reality is because it's not prioritized. What do I mean by that? If you ask the average couple, how many times would you like to have sex? Oh man, 3-4 times a week. Okay, how often do you actually have sex? About 3-4 times a month? Wait a minute, you both want more. You're doing less. Why? Well, we get busy and things, we got a lot going on. And by the end of the night, this and schedules that. Exactly. So you have a desire gap. There's a gap in between what you're actually engaging in and what you desire to engage in. And the way that you do it is by scheduling it. Setting aside specific time for intimacy will ensure that it remains a priority amid your busy schedules. Working week to week with clients, how was your week? Guess what they all say? Busy. Of course it was. And because it was busy, that becomes your excuse and your justification and your alibi not to do what you consider yourself having priorities. Yeah, I didn't get to do the homework because we got busy. Yeah, we didn't do a date night this week because we were busy. Yeah, we didn't have intimacy the way we wanted to because we were busy. And so when I say schedule your physical intimacy, I'm talking about both sexual and non-sexual activities. It is critically important because you're sowing seeds to reap a future harvest. And you can't starve your spouse out from affection if it's a requirement for intimacy and connection in your relationship. So not only should you be scheduling intimacy, physical, non-sexual, you should be scheduling dates. This is why we say every single week there should be a play day. Regular date nights can help rekindle the romance and provide opportunities for physical closeness. Okay? So date nights are critically important. And you got to begin to do that. And it happens with a schedule. Let's go to the next one. We got 2 more. And I hope this is helping you. The importance of having open communication. Here we go again. Now, we talked about open communication when we were dealing with emotional intimacy. And here it comes up. It creeps up again when dealing with physical intimacy. Why? Because you have to take the time to discuss needs. You have to have open and honest conversations about your physical intimacy needs and desires. This helps in understanding and meeting each other's expectations. A lot of times what we do is we have internal conversations with ourselves that we're not having with our spouse. And so a lot of times our needs go unmet because they are unspoken. And we expect our spouse to read our minds. And we get caught up in our head or caught up in our feelings and feel some type of way because things aren't happening the way that we want them to happen, to the degree that we want them to happen. And we internalize and we don't talk. And so we wind up having conversations with ourselves. We wind up getting on the phone with our friends and family and complaining about what's not happening, but we're not having the conversation with our spouse. And the more you begin to talk about it and the more you begin to clarify, the more things actually get done. So expressing openly your feelings and your thoughts around physical intimacy is critically important, right? It allows you to openly address any insecurities, any concerns, any struggles. Listen, sometimes these are conversations that we don't want to have. But even in the midst of the conflict, see, I say that sometimes a crisis can be a gift because it wasn't a comfortable conversation. It seemed like it went all over the place. But in this conversation, it forced issues out that were buried within. And now that it's out, now we are robbed of an excuse that we don't know. And now we have to take the responsibility of dealing with it. And I've seen difficult conversations have tremendous outcomes. And so if physical intimacy is important to you, you have to create the time to talk about it. Hope that makes sense. Then we have experiment and playfulness. Critically important. We're talking about physical intimacy. You've got to experiment and you've got to engage in playfulness. You got to try new things. Like at the end of the day, monogamy leads to monotony because we get caught up in patterns. We get caught up in doing things the same way every single time. So there's predictability and things get stale and boring. But being open to trying new things in your physical relationship, whether it's new activities, whether it's new positions, whether it's a new setting, this can bring about excitement and novelty. Remember, when dealing with infidelity, most people, when they engage in a betrayal, are in search of something new and different. And because they're getting the same within their marriage, unfortunately, they seek out something new and different from someone new and different. But if you're intentional to bring new and different into your marriage, you can have new and different with the same spouse, the one that you are in a covenant relationship with. And so to know that there's something to look forward to, there's something new, there's something fresh, there's something exciting. Oh my God, we're going to do this tonight. Oh my God, I was surprised by that. That's what keeps it passionate. That's what keeps it, you know what I'm saying? The thrill, the excitement, the allure, the intrigue. That's what you're looking for. And so maintaining a level of playfulness, meaning keep a sense of playfulness and fun in your physical interactions. Like tickle each other, wrestle with each other. Being lighthearted can reduce pressure and it can increase your enjoyment. If everything is seen as an obligation, a duty, a task, I have to perform, if it takes the fun away, who wants to do it? It's not fun. And bringing that fun element back into your relationship, which you had from the very beginning, is critically important. These are the things that we need to do to begin to rebuild the physical intimacy. And when we do things, I'm telling you, it makes a significant difference. Hope this was helpful. Once again, sit down and have a conversation with your spouse about these particular topics to enhance your intimacy. Now, today is Wednesday, tomorrow's Thursday. We have one more episode. We're going to delve deeper into sexual intimacy. Just talking about physical intimacy today. We're going to end off talking about sexual intimacy, and that becomes the cherry on top. So I thank you for tuning in. Love you all. See you tomorrow.